I've been thinking about what are the attributes which go into making a great hitter, an elite hitter, such as you see here at the major league level. At the very high level, I think of things in terms of about four different types of attributes: the mental, the physical, the ability to time and aim the bat, and swing mechanics. And I'd like to discuss those and explore each of those. Starting with physical, certainly strength and being in good condition will make an athlete be more a better athlete, a better hitter as compared to someone who isn't in such a good shape. Relative to injuries, it's really the avoidance of injuries. If a person has, for instance, a sore back, it's not going to make them very easily be a good hitter. Height and weight, again, weight being in good condition is certainly a big help. Height is something you're kind of born with, but if someone was 7'6", going to have a pretty big strike zone, it's going to probably make them a little bit harder to be a very good hitter. And physical maturity, as you think about younger players, certainly a 12-year-old batter is not going to have the physical capability and coordination that a 16-year-old batter has, and the 16-year-old batter likewise won't be as good as an older 20 or 25-year-old batter. Moving on to mental, this has many different aspects, from understanding the pitcher and understanding what kind of pitches might be thrown. How does a player cope with slumps? A lot of slumps in baseball, and how does a player deal with that when that happens? Is a player willing to work really hard? Do they have a drive to continue to get better and better? And are they open to changes? Those types of things will certainly be a good attribute to have. Another aspect of the mental game is the ability to, I'll say, be able to pick out a good pitch to hit. So if you have two batters that are pretty similar, but one swings at a lot of bad pitches, probably the one who has a better eye at of a strike is probably going to be the better hitter. I would contribute that to the mental side of batting. Timing and aim, it's a little bit of a mystery, perhaps, but what I look at that is it's just the ability for a batter to put the bat on the ball, basically have the bat be at the right location and at the right time. Um, I was lucky to see Tony Gwynn play for many years, and even amongst the major leaguers, Tony really had a great ability to make contact, to get that bat on the ball consistently and drive the ball. Likewise, I've seen young players that seem to be quite good at this, even if they're maybe not the most physical players, or even if they have bad swing mechanics. Sometimes the better younger players just have that ability to put the bat on the ball and put the ball into play. Certainly that type of a batter would sort of diminish in ability as the years goes on and as the competition got better, unless they also improve their swing mechanics. But certainly timing and aim is a very important part of batting. And it's also a bit mysterious to me anyway, as exactly how certain players seem to be a little better at this than others, and also how well this can really be taught. And finally, swing mechanics. And what this is basically having the bat and body in the right locations, and that's during the beginning of the swing and through the rotation and into contact, and in fact beyond contact. Basically, does a batter correctly locate and move his body in order to hit the ball correctly? Relative to younger players, I would say that 99.99% of them do not have good swing mechanics. Even as you get older players, leading into high school and even into colleges, players do have shortcomings relative to a major league hitter. In most cases, some of them are subtle, some of them are actually more extreme. But certainly at the major league level, the swing mechanics are in fact quite good. If they weren't, the player would not be in the major leagues. So those are the four general areas. The swing mechanics I've learned from Steve Englishbey at englishbeyhitting.com. That's his site. Generally talks mostly about swing mechanics, and in some ways touches on the other three areas. So again, these four areas, I think if a player really was good at all four of these things, that player could be quite good. Now thinking about the journey, called the journey to better mechanics. Um, as I mentioned, young players almost universally do not have good swing mechanics. They have quite a few shortfalls. So the reality is quite different than the goal. level of good mechanics. So how does a player go from where they are to where they should be? Generally, this is done by trial and error. A younger player would try different things at the plate or in practice. They might try some things that the coaches say, some experts say, and eventually, hopefully, they'll get better at it. An awful lot of players don't. Like I said, even at the high school level, most players have relatively serious mechanical flaws. One of the things I would say is fairly true is that players generally don't really know what good mechanics are. They might know how a good swing feels, perhaps, but to accurately depict and describe what an elite level and major league level mechanics are, they probably would not do a very good job. I would also say that experts, whether it's well-meaning parents or coaches or maybe paid coaches, often really do not do a good job at all to explain what good mechanics are. Even, I would say, former players, former minor league or major league players, certainly might have been able to swing well, but they do not do a good job at all at describing how to swing. This trial and error style of progress can work for some, but it also could mean that a player is doing the wrong things as they try different things out, and in fact are making them further from the ideal state. I think it's very important, and I think this can give a player a much better chance to succeed if they understand what am I doing? What am I doing right now? And what should I be doing? What do major league level players do? What's the difference between what I do and what they do? And I think both of those questions most people can't answer accurately. To understand what you are doing, it's, I think, pretty important to take video, to capture some swings, some good slow motion video, to really be able to see what it is you're doing. It's important. In most young players, they have a lot of negatives. They do more things wrong than they do right. So try to eliminate the negatives. There's a lot of extra motion usually in younger swings. So work on eliminating the negatives. Know what the negatives are and try to eliminate them and try to be more like a major leaguer. Understanding what a major league player does will give you your destination. And I do emphasize what a major league player does as opposed to what a major league player says he does. And the reason I say that is even good major league hitters, and Don Mattingly certainly was a very good hitter, sometimes struggle in really accurately describing what a swing should be done and how a swing would look right. I always say that for anybody, whether it's myself or a major leaguer or Steve Englishbey, compare what they say happens in a swing to what actually happens in a swing. Go to some video tapes and look at the way major leaguers swing, and then say, hey, does my coach actually tell me this, or is he telling me something different? On this screen, you can see that Don Mattingly is showing one thing, but if you look at the video of him on the right as he actually played, he was doing something quite different, the way his arm and bat aligned and the spine angle. So again, compare what anybody says to actual swings. Don't use posed swings. The picture on the left is Don kind of posing with the bat. Make sure you learn from what Don did on the actual field. Here's another expert. He's got a website trying his best to explain mechanics, and in his video he's standing on the left side there and says this is a pretty ideal contact position. And interestingly, that very video of his also shows the major leaguer on the right, and he's showing that position. I added the red lines in, but the position of that major leaguer is not the way this expert says is ideal position. His positionings are not accurate and quite inferior to the way a true major leaguer would hit. So again, even though somebody might sound like they know what they're talking about, compare them to what major leaguers say, and then judge how good that expert might be. And one last one slide. I mentioned that it's quite critical to take video. I think it really there's too much going on in the swing. It happens too fast. There's too many things to look at. Without video, it's very hard to really get a good handle on what's happening, especially with younger players that might be doing a variety of different things wrong. Standard video that most people have on their phones or a video recorder takes 30 frames per second video. I do recommend using a higher frame rate. I think most cameras now have 120 or 240 frames per second, so that when those are played back, it's played back in slow motion. So that's really good to see things. You could stop the video frame by frame and looking at what's going on. It's also important, as the blue arrows show, that the video, try to consistently, as best you can, to take the video directly from the side or directly from behind the batter. This way you'll have a true view of what's going on, and you can then compare your player as they progress. And then finally, try to keep the camera at chest height. I know when my son was smaller, a lot of times I would have the camera very high over my eyesight, and so my video was angled down a little too much. So it's best to have the camera more at the player's chest level.